Hey, so it's Becca, and I'm here with my presentation for the equity audit. Um, so I did my equity audit on City High Middle School in Grand Rapids, part of the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And let's see, City is an alternative high school for students that are, quote, highly motivated and academically gifted. It was founded in the 70s. It, in the last 10 years, has become an IB, International Baccalaureate School. So kids have the opportunity to, in addition to earning their sort of normal diploma, they can also get this International Baccalaureate diploma, which is recognized all over the world. It's a really challenging school. There's a reason that I really wanted to look at this school in particular, and it has to do with my oldest son's best friend, having gotten expelled from City for something that I feel was unreasonable, and he was African American. And then he became part of an ACLU case. The ACLU of Michigan actually filed against Grand Rapids Public Schools because they had found that GRPS was disproportionately expelling kids of color. And Nevin had never been in trouble in his whole life, and inadvertently brought a knife to school. Forgot he had it, fell out of his backpack, and they just threw a fit. So it's a kid that had never been in trouble and just went from 0 to 100, and he was out. So that's always sort of been on my mind in regard to City. But I looked at the program. The data that I found, I could not actually find much about behavior. Most of what I found had to do with test scores and that sort of thing. So let's see, City has 847 students, 57% female, 43% male. The racial makeup is 57% white, 25% Hispanic, and I think 17% African American, and then everything else. And it's about what you would expect. The thing that I thought was interesting and sort of stood out to me was that females and males were pretty evenly matched across the board, except for in language arts, where females excelled about 8 points higher than males. Math and social studies, they were just a tiny bit behind males, but only like 2 or 3%. And there wasn't previous year's data on the language arts, so the 8% difference, I have no way of knowing if that was a trend, something that had been happening consistently, or it was just a fluke that year. But I just thought that was interesting. And then in terms of, there's the economically disadvantaged students did about, let me see this. Statewide, they score 26% on their MSTAT proficiency or higher. At City, where there's an overall rate of 72% proficiency or above, the economically disadvantaged kids were at 58%. So that's certainly a lot better than the state average, but it is not anywhere near as good as the average. And when you take into consideration that the average includes those economically disadvantaged students, well, and that's 40% almost of the kids go there are economically disadvantaged. So that's a pretty big number. That would be a pretty big number of students who are not economically disadvantaged and I'm not good at math, but it would be considerably higher, like even I would guess into the 80 something percentile. And so that's a pretty big disparity. And then let's see, what do we have here? So statewide overall on the MSTEP, African American students score at 17% proficiency or above. At City, it's 52%. Hispanics, 28% statewide, 53% at city. And white students, 47% statewide, and 85% at city. So that's pretty high. Asian students statewide, 65%, but at city, 84%. So that's a huge difference. Well, I guess it's about the same as actually, no, the white, I guess it's the white kids that, I don't know. Percentage wise, maybe they're all about equal. You have to test into city, so you already have a group of kids that have been what's the word, just pre-selected for being able to test well and having high test scores. So of course they're going to have higher test scores than the statewide average shows. But this data does definitely show that this is an achievement gap, that this is an opportunity for the administration and teachers to look at some of what they're doing. Think about ways that they can try to address that gap and improve the scores for students of color and economically disadvantaged students. Excuse me. The teachers, overall, they have a really good retention rate. They, on average, have 15 years of experience. I would be interested in seeing how many teachers of color there are. I think that's something that would be interesting to measure. I haven't seen any data on that. I happen to believe that and there is data to support this, that it's, especially for kids of color, it's really good for them to see people that look like them as their instructors. But I think it's really good for white kids as well, and in a way, possibly even more important. I grew up with that, and I just feel like it helped. It was a formative experience, I guess. Let's see. Oh, the access to high or to quality programming. GRPS struggles with that. They have sports for middle school, but once you get to high school, you have to travel to whatever your sort of home high school is, which is either Ottawa or Union. Transportation can be tricky. It's a little bit of a barrier. They do have things like drama, chess club, and some of those sorts of things. I think there's an environmental club. It's a little bit of a nerdy kids school, so there's like a Dungeons and Dragons club and robotics, which is becoming available at a lot of schools now. And band. They do okay. I feel like they definitely could do better in terms of access to the high quality programming. So I'm a big fan of this Paul Gorski model, this social justice framework through equity literacy, which talks about recognizing biases and inequities, responding in the immediate to any biases that you witness, redress biases in the long term, and then to create and sustain bias-free and equitable learning environment. So just having it be part of your everyday conversation with students, teaching them to look out for it, being in communication and maybe holding professional development for teachers to teach them about it. Just becoming well-versed in that area. So this has been an interesting assignment. I've done quite a bit with data in some of the other classes that I've taken, but this was definitely a new look or a new perspective, a new lens through which to view the data. And it's an area that I'm really interested in, so I'm definitely going to in the future be, just even out of curiosity, I will pursue looking at how the different schools. I just started a job at Union, and I was kind of regretting not having chosen Union as my school, but that's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and look at it now just out of my own curiosity and see what I can find out about what's happening in terms of equity at Union. So that's what I've got. I've enjoyed the class. Thanks, and I will hopefully see you sometime. Bye.